There are some surprising kitchen tricks that will make your life much easier. These are really worth their weight in gold and you will only want to use them in future. There are also a few real insider tips. Let's start with number 1. If you regularly use baking paper, you're probably familiar with this problem. You want to lay out the baking paper on the baking tray, but it keeps curling up and you just can't get it to lay out smoothly. There is an ingenious and simple trick that you can use to prevent this. All you need to do is press the piece of baking paper together once beforehand. Because if you squeeze it like you can see here and then open it up again, it is now shaped in such a way that it no longer rises. So you can simply place it on your baking tray and it should no longer curl up and hold really nicely. But there is another trick for this, because you probably know that the baking paper in the baking tin itself doesn't hold so easily or keeps popping out as you can see here. But you can also solve this problem really easily. Simply turn your baking tin upside down. Now place the baking paper over it and press it together at the corners as you can see here. This way you can fold it into shape. Then just turn the baking tin over and put the baking paper in here and it should hold perfectly. Number 2 is a really ingenious quick trick, because if you're boiling a few eggs and now want to get individual eggs out of the pan, all you need is a whisk like this. All you have to do is press gently on the egg and you have it in the whisk. Can take it out and let it out again somewhere else. So if you want to get individual eggs out of a pot, simply use a whisk like this. This brings us to our next ingenious trick. If you want to prepare an iceberg lettuce like this, you should give it a good whack on the table first, because there is a really ingenious reason for doing so. You are probably familiar with the following problem. If you want to prepare iceberg lettuce and perhaps need the whole head of lettuce, you remove individual leaves and then cut them into smaller pieces. Because what you don't want to eat here is, of course, the lower stalk. However, cutting this out can be quite tedious and you may simply cut off too much and end up wasting a lot of the good lettuce. But there is this ingenious trick. Simply hold the iceberg lettuce as you can see it now, with the stalk facing downwards. And now you should hit it hard on your table or worktop. If you do this, the stalk will be smashed inwards and detached from the whole iceberg lettuce. As you can see, all I have to do now is turn everything over and I can pull the stalk out whole. Now I can also cut the iceberg lettuce whole in the next step and no longer have to worry about accidentally adding the stalk to my food. That brings us to the next trick. This one is about pies, because if you've eaten pies or cakes and there's still some left over, you naturally want to store it somewhere so that you can eat it later. A tin like this is the best way to do this, but the problem now is how to get a cake into the tin without breaking or tipping over. You can actually solve this problem really easily, and we just need to think a little differently. Instead of putting the cake in the tin like this, you can simply place it on the lid. This way you can put it straight down without it tipping over. And all you have to do now is press the tin itself over the top, close it and put it in the fridge. You can then store the tart much better and have a plate ready if you want to eat it again at some point. When you cook broccoli, do you cut off the individual florets first and put them in a pot like this? That's actually much easier. All you have to do is put the entire broccoli stalk in the pot upside down so that everything is underwater. Either the pot is already the right size so that you can just put it in like this, or if you want to cook more broccoli you can cut it in half once in the middle like I did here, so that everything is nicely fixed and stays underwater the whole time. When it's cooked you can take it out whole and only have to cut the outer edges with a knife, and it's much easier to remove all the florets from the stalk at once. If you want to eat some crisp, but the annoying thing is that some of the crisp are already out of the bag and you have to reach down into the bag. This usually makes your hands unnecessarily dirty, and it's also kind of annoying to always reach down into the bag. But it's much easier. All you have to do is carefully fold the bag over at the bottom, as you can see here. This will push the crisps further and further up. Keep doing this until they have reached the top of the bag. This also makes it much easier to place the bag of crisps on the table. And now you have your crisps ready and can easily snack on them from the bag. For our next trick, you should stick a screwdriver in a lemon. Instead of a screwdriver, you can also use another pointed object. And this is how the trick works. The first step is to roll the lemon a little. So press it lightly on the table and roll it back and forth. This is to loosen all the liquid from the inside a little. Now grab the lemon and the sharp object. As I said, I've used a screwdriver here. I use it to press into the lemon once to create a small hole in it. And you wouldn't believe what you can get out of this little hole. Because if you cut open a lemon and only need a little of the juice, the rest of the lemon will be completely dried out after a few days. You don't have that problem. Because now you can simply squeeze the lemon over a glass, really get a lot of juice out of it, and can put the rest of the lemon to one side and still use it a few days later. And did you know that when you cut lemons, you should first cut off a very thin layer on the outside before you cut anything out of the center? The same also applies to other vegetables or fruit, such as the cucumber here. The side that you should actually cut off and throw in the bin should not be thrown in the bin, but kept. Because if you want to use any part of the cucumber now and put the rest in the fridge so that it lasts longer, you can poke a few toothpicks through this end piece and then stick them into the rest of the cucumber. This will keep it together much better and it will stay fresh much longer. And this works for many types of fruit and vegetables, such as this lemon. Simply secure the end with a few toothpicks and it shouldn't dry out as quickly as if you just put it somewhere in the corner. I have two ingenious tricks for you with this trick, because if you want to remove the skin from garlic, all you have to do is take a larger knife, press on the garlic once until it cracks, and then get the outer skin off. This makes it easy to remove. But what do you do now if you want to finally grate the garlic clove? If you use a grater like this, it is usually very dirty afterwards and you won't get most of the garlic out but will have it somewhere in the grater. Take a piece of cling film, place it over the grater and grate the garlic over it. This way you get it really finely grated and in the end you can use all of the garlic, as it is on a piece of cling film. What's also brilliant is that the grater itself doesn't get dirty because we had the foil over it. Another ingenious trick is to stick a toothpick to a knife. It can be really helpful, especially if you use a larger knife like this. I'm sure you're familiar with the situation where you cut vegetables or something else like I did with this cucumber and the individual slices always stick to the knife. This means that you can't get the sliced cucumber to lie nicely lined up on your board afterwards, but it's spread all over the board because it's flying around. And all that can help you is a single toothpick. Place the tape over the toothpick and stick it to the front of your knife, as you can see in my picture. This way the cucumber slices will no longer stick to the knife but will be removed from the knife by the toothpick. So you can cut the cucumber in order and all the individual slices will stay nicely on the board and won't fly back and forth. And do you already know this ingenious trick for which you should put a lemon in your sink? However, we don't need a whole lemon, we just need a slice. So cut off a thin slice of lemon and take it to your drain, because there's a really brilliant reason why you should put this slice of lemon down here now. Because you're probably familiar with the fact that quite bad odors come out of the drain, which is normal over time. If you put a lemon in here, you can make sure that the odors are no longer so strong. This is because the lemon ensures that the drain smells really nice again. The citric acid also cleans the sink every time you rinse it with a little water. You can even put the stopper back over the lemon so that it is no longer directly visible. However, you should replace the lemon slice with a new one every few days, otherwise it will start to go moldy. Did you also know what incredible things you can do with WD-40? Click on the video you see on the screen now. There I show you 19 really ingenious tricks.